I'm ready to slash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And anybody who knows my preferences in robots knows that I am the most excited about World Championship 7 and the way that it unfolded. So here to talk about that and so much more with me today is Jamison Go. Welcome back to the show.
It's great to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it is time to do some more slashing and burning. I'm so excited to talk about the season, and like you have to understand how difficult it was for me to not say anything to anybody except for builders for the last 6 months about this, because I obviously was very excited, and if people paid really close attention, there were definitely some super subtle hints in my post throughout the season that this might be a thing that happened. But so happy that you finally achieved this goal of winning the giant nut. First of all, just in general, like how does it feel to see all of that hard work, finally pay off?
Oh, well, I mean, it's man, it's so incredible to have won. Um, I mean, at the base level, it's the giant nut. It's the big prize of BattleBots. It's robot fighting immortality. Yeah, it's really solidifying your name up in the rafters with the banners, especially now. But even like it's just known for all of robot fighting history. Sawblaze is going to be one of the champions, and I think that's just super amazing feeling. But a point that you touched on that what I think something that I've always talked about with basically anybody and anyone who asks, how do I get started in something like this? It's the barrier to entry is pretty high these days. It's all about kind of jumping in, taking that risk, and continuing to improve. No one really starts out as the top robot ever, or the top anything. This is generally applicable for anything in life. You need to work hard and you need to recognize those opportunities where you can do better. And instead of getting down on yourself about, man, I didn't win, or like I lost and it was silly, like you take that, you can say like, oh, okay, you have your moment where I'm frustrated. And then you take that and say, how am I going to do better? You just do that much better, better, better every single time. And it takes a long time, right? For BattleBots, for us, Sawblaze has had 6 seasons. It took a long time. I mean, that's a long time to keep your head in the game and be thinking about continual improvement. I think there's probably lots of times, maybe even all the way back at the very first season we competed, where we could have said like, "Man, I'm so bummed. I don't want to do this," you know. But you find it deep inside you to want to make that improvement. I think that's a common theme between myself and Jonathan as well, actually. So it's a really awesome final because of that.
Yes, I would definitely agree. Now, I want to go back to the beginning of the season, for something that I think generated so many memes and so much joy to those in the robot fighting community, which was the birth of Hyperblaze. And I'm going to maintain, so funny story for people that don't know, and literally like only no one knows except for like a few people. But I, on the first day of filming, when I went back to the pits, I was wearing a Hypershock shirt, and when I ran into you, you asked me where my Sawblaze shirt was, and I'm going to maintain that I was just repping one half of Hyperblaze that day. So but that was, I thought it was a great match to start off the season. It certainly ended in a very interesting way, and it took some time for those bots to get unstuck from one another. But I just want to hear your thoughts on that as like an opening to the season.
Yeah, I mean, it truly was an opening. It was the very first fight, so everyone was all the jitters were maximum for ourselves and for all the other teams. Literally match number one. I wish the fight had not ended in the way that it did, because it was honestly it was a great moment, but it was honestly a pain for both of our teams. Uh, the amount of time Will and his crew had to spend, like, they essentially, before they took it out to the tent to make those incisions, they had to take everything that was sensitive to the dust and sparks out. So they basically cleared out all the Piper Shock. And I don't know all that much about the internals of Hypershock, but if we had to do that, it would be such an exercise to do that. And also, I would have loved that if it was actually the first match that was shown, then we kind of have this like beginning and end sort of thing. The very first match of the season, the very last match of the season. Uh, at that time when it happened, you know, sure, it was a win. I think that we had a lot more uncertainty than, say, like the tournament side level of confidence that we are steadily building up. I mean, one thing was the tires, right? Tires were a big issue, and you know, just the manner of maybe not as incredibly decisive win. Um, I think if the match went on longer, I think we probably could have controlled it and taken it anyways. But it wasn't like a match that makes you feel like, oh yeah, like we've got it. There's all the tires and this and that. It felt like, okay, we got a win, but it's not a dominating one. So at that point, we're thinking, oh, let's just keep going. But I don't feel like we don't think like we're giant nut contenders yet.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Because like you said, it was a win. But it could have been interesting to see what would have happened had that fight been able to continue on. Needless to to say, obviously, then you went on to get a KO win versus Lockjaw, which was a great match. But the next one I really want to talk about is that match versus Scorpios, because that was an interesting match for you, I'm sure, in a number of ways. Number one, you are also a huge fan of Overkill, as am I, as is Zach Lytle. And the fact that they were using that blade to me was one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. It would have been a no-brainer for me. I would have been like, yes, I have this, I'm going to use it. And I think that it was very smart, because what they intended to do with it could have happened if you weren't astute enough to realize that that's what they were going to try and do with it, and you were able to avoid that from happening. But how was that for you as a fan of that robot to kind of get to face that weapon in a very unique way?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of frustrating. It's like, someone takes your like a favorite treasured item and they like put it in front of you and say like, oh, we can't hit it kind of thing. It's like that made me want to, even as much as I love Overkill, maybe you just want to take a chunk out of it. So if the opportunity came, I'm like, yeah, I'm taking a chunk out of it. I want a piece of that blade, just for the pure frustration of some of this treasured, this beautiful piece of history being used against me. I'm gonna mess it up. Uh, Strategically, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit relieving to not have to fight dueling hammer saws, because we both know that the arm structures on the robots, they're pretty susceptible to getting hit by one another. So it would have been like this thumb war where the first one that flinches kind of loses. So I'm glad we didn't have to play that game. That took a lot of pressure off of me to drive a perfect match. Like it's like if they were to hit us with the blade, I don't think it was gonna do all that much, unless essentially their strategy required us to do something for it to work. So if we just don't do anything, then we're pretty safe. So it would buy us a lot of sort of free oopsies. But it was unfortunate that they got jammed in the screws in such a way that the screws couldn't turn at all. It was, I think, to my recollection, it was like one fork above and below, like the screws just they can't do anything the way that they have the helix on it. So they're very well stuck.
You did get to cut into it though.
I almost got it. I would have gotten it in half. The second strike would have, but like Sawblaze, like it was behind Sawblaze, the other side of Sawblaze. So I couldn't actually see where I was, and so I actually hit the same spot twice. Otherwise, yeah, definitely would have been able to get half that blade.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool to me. You know, I like I loved it. It was unfortunate, you know, for them, but I mean, again, it's like you said, if they had not done that, I mean, it's still tough to say what would have happened. I think that they made the best decision that they could have in the moment. Um, so it went from that to the Hydra match, which I will be completely honest. I think that Jake Ewert had me faked out because I had interviewed him and I didn't know the results of this match because I wasn't there for filming when this happened. So I really had no clue. And he made me think that Sawblaze would be able to, you know, get around to the side, take the hammer saw, get into the top of Hydra. And so I was very convinced that Sawblaze was going to be 4-0 and win this match. And when I saw it, I was like, oh.
He has a good poker face, you know, Jake. You can't be a good like nice villain without being able to put on a little bit of that show. He's got a good poker face. I you know I kind of want to find out what it'd be like to play with the Ewert family in poker or something. I bet they'd be fantastic at it.
I'm
But he's not
sure.
wrong, you
Yeah.
know. He everything that he said I believe is completely true in the way that um we can do a lot of damage. He knows that. And it's if we got one good hit, that's all it takes. So, you know, we and I know that we can get underneath him. It was made very difficult by the first flip. It causes some damage, which affected the drivability of the robot. But we do have the ability to get underneath him. So we're as long as the arms still work, we're just playing this probability game. Like eventually we're gonna get underneath him. We got underneath him like 3 or 4 times, but we couldn't push into him because of the strip of metal that was hanging up the robot. So in that sense, he kind of lucked out. He kind of got lucky there, Jake. I'm just kidding. He did a fantastic job of keeping everything forward. I think he waited and he started putting the power up after the first few flips where you know we kind of kept him from getting a solid purchase on the robot, but that first big one where he was at full power, you can see the green light on the robot when he's at full power. That first big flip that messed us up pretty well, and that changed the course of the rest of the fight. You know, we were able to sort of I'm gonna say quote air quotes repair it. So all the subsequent flips landing on the robot was actually flattening that piece of metal out. So by the end of the fight, it was actually flat enough for us to drive straight. But it was like the end of the match, so it doesn't really matter. I was confident we were gonna lose that by the end. Um, so yeah, definitely they want it fair and square. But I don't know if he's gonna get us next time. So don't count on it.
I I would expect a different plan next time. That would be my guess based off of what you know what I know about you and you know how much you study the previous matches and kind of look at the way that things you know may have gone wrong. So yeah, we'll see. I would like that as a rematch personally.
Oh, I don't particularly care for it, but if it were to happen again, I don't think he's gonna to steamroll as much as he did before. I mean, first of all, it's like the plow we were using, the plow base, the big steel weldment in the back that kind of mounts everything. That was actually a season 6 version, so they're compatible for mounting. But the season 7 ones, the new ones, have different features on it, features that may have actually end up being important. one of which was reinforcement in the area, which exactly was the part that broke. Like we're already aware of that issue, and the newer ones have reinforcement in that area. The reason why we didn't put that one, the season 7 one on for this fight is because the 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 match in which that defect had manifested was a different kind of robot, and we weren't expecting that to happen in this fight. So that's poor on us for not putting on the latest version. But after that fight, we updated that change to all the plow bases, and we also added additional reinforcement, as detailed in some of our social media posts. But I don't think that'll happen again. So
Well, if we have that matchup again, then we'll see. So
yeah, we almost did too. So
yes, exactly. Now for the tournament, you obviously you got in. Were you surprised by the seating that you got, or did you think that seemed about right based on kind of where everyone else fell?
yeah, I mean I think it's fine. We're always of the opinion, we say it all the time, that we just want to get into the tournament. It doesn't particularly matter which seed. A higher seed, of course, is better. Like you start off feeling better, but really with the robots that we have remaining in this field of about 50, right? Every robot is pretty awesome, and even some really good robots have just been down on their luck this season. We were number 8 seed, which is actually the lowest seed Sawblaze has ever gotten in its history. And we are matched against Blip, who was a quarterfinalist last season. So that was a definitely a bit nerve-wracking for that one. I think we tried much harder than we had for any of our other fights, including our own main event, um, because we know that Aaron Hill is and his team are just so amazing, and they're not the type to just sit idly by and just kind of like, oh, let's roll the dice and see where it falls. He's gonna like he Aaron will make his own dice, and they will land exactly the way he wants. So they were working. Aaron was like babysitting the CNC machine, making something for a long time, and we visited to say hi and try to get an idea of what they're making. Just like it's so funny. We saw like the cam, so like the pathing for the CNC on like the screen, and then we like went back and we like doodled it from memory and be like, which way does it go? Kind of, it was just having so much fun with that. Um, but yeah, we're happy to have gotten that win. I think that was a really tough opponent for the round of 32.
It was. And I mean, it was so impressive, I think, on both ends of that fight, because, impressive on Sawblaze to get just so many shots. And I have to say, whoever won that flipper plate of Blip in the eBay auction, I am so jealous. It had so many marks in it from just, the weapon on Sawblaze hitting it so many times. And then, Blip lasting long enough to get a judge's decision in that match. I mean, it just speaks to both you and seems reasonable, like your team, both teams as builders, to have such great robots in that fight.
Yeah, I mean they gave us an awesome piece. They gave us the magnesium frame rail, which held the speed controller that was responsible for controlling the solenoids. So the thing that lets Blip flip was something that we had broken fairly early on in the match, and that's what kept them from. Well, they'd have to charge up too. So there's like a few things that prevented Blip from getting a flip on us. But I mean, first and foremost, if they couldn't actuate the solenoids, even if the flywheel was charged up, they couldn't flip on us. Uh, that's an awesome piece. Like we had a post about it's like yay big. It's so cool, magnesium. I kind of wish that we got one of the frame rails, but I know they're trying to fix that one because of the frame rails for the flippers, because they're S7 tool steel and they're impressive pieces. But I know they want to try and save those, fix those for upcoming maybe champions fights, maybe not. Uh, yeah, you can't give those away. but that was one of the pieces I thought was the most impressive on their machine. There's so many impressive pieces on that machine. It's so intricate. It's amazing.
Yes, there really are. Yeah, I thought that it was an amazing fight. And it led into, for me, one of the most interesting situations as a fan. And the reason why it was interesting is because, I was paying attention to a lot of people's brackets that they had filled out. And not only did people think that Cobalt was going to beat Monsoon, but they thought Cobalt was going to beat Sawblaze, which didn't actually happen because Cobalt didn't beat Monsoon. Monsoon, I think, surprised a lot of people. Not me, because I know that that's an impressive machine as well. And, they really did a great job with it during the season. And you managed to KO them. So, like that, I thought that was impressive. And not only that, but something that they showed later on at the end of that episode was Tom Brewster in his interview saying something to the effect of, like, if we're going to lose, like, we want you to win because we want to say that we beat the champion. And I thought that was so cool because that little clip was shown before everything happened. And I'm like, but I know what happens.
Yeah,
Um,
they want to say they lost the champion. Yeah, um, but foreshadowing, maybe not. I mean, I think that everyone would generally share that sentiment. Is like if they want to lose anyone, they want to lose to the best robots, right? So I mean, for sure, if he says that, I'd be like, yeah, man, I'll try my best. Sure, like we're not gonna stop trying now that we've just made it to this far. I love reading all the brackets like you're mentioning. I actually read most everything for better or for worse, and just to see where people's heads at. I'm aware that Sawblaze in the fight nights. I think it didn't really show its stuff. Like we had fights and we had a good record, but I don't think it impressed anybody. I think people they love the whir bang kind of things. And so people were probably underestimating us a lot. People thought we were going to lose to Blip even. And that was totally a possibility, but not for the reason that it's Aaron Hill's robot. They're saying you're going to lose because it's a flipper. And that's not right. Subway is not weak against flippers. They're not weak against big spinners. They're weak against people with good ground game. So Hydra has a good ground game. Endgame also has a good ground game, and even a better one than they did in season 6. Blip also has a good ground game. I would attribute it if we were going to lose anything, it might be because of that. But it's fun to see all the predictions, see how things see the upsets. So Monsoon over Cobalt was a huge upset, but that was an awesome fight. Between the two of those, we can't really say which one we would have rather have fought because they're both incredibly destructive. And also, like we had a chance to look at Cobalt's damage after that fight, and we're just like, yes, I can put my fist in the hole that Monsoon made. It's about like one fist worth of steel. So that was I mean that's amazing damage. We can't really take too many of those. So Cobalt Monsoon. It's there's not really a win here. Uh, we did what we had to do to get the victory on Monsoon. I think that the the pods are actually very very challenging. I don't know if people fully appreciate what that does from a design standpoint, but they're kind of impervious to most people's forks because the chassis what the forks will do, right, is kind of isolate drivetrain if you have low ground clearance, and then it lifts you up and then you can kind of do whatever. But Monsoon's the chassis just kind of goes, you get underneath it, just goes whoop, and as long as it has the wheel contact in the very back, it's actually virtually has a ton of reach with the big blade. So it presents an interesting challenge. I don't know if a lot of people have thought about that, but when we think about a matchup, it's like, can we go straight in? Maybe not. I don't think we can go straight in. We can't charge it. I think that's a pro for Monsoon. So, we were able to kind of direct them around and get a few hits. There's a beautiful double exchange when after they got stuck in the kill saw slot and we pivoted the robot to hit kind of on the side of that pod, the slow motion was really cool. So it looks like we chopped into the upright and they have the forks, right? They knocked one of the forks down. And I think their blade was going this way. So the fork went down and then kicked it up or hit our blade or something like that. And it just like everything just like violently exploded. A fork flew somewhere. Our arm like rocketed backwards and everything jumped in the air. It was super cool. That broke our arm too.
Never a good thing.
Yeah. But no, we're hoping we didn't have to use it. Luckily, we did not have to use it. Thanks to their pulverizer. Uh,
Yes.
yes. I don't
That
know.
was
Yeah.
unfortunate for them.
I don't. I don't know what happened inside their robot. I don't know if if their weapon started to seize up, or maybe a belt jumped off or something like that. But yeah, their weapon stopped, and we were able to get them high centered in the center of the arena, stuck on doing the thing because their weapon was no longer spinning.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, they had a great run. It was definitely a good match, and you got that KO and moved on to what was definitely one of the fights of the season, versus Minotaur. And again, a lot of what led up to that was also interesting for me watching as a fan because, obviously I saw what I saw at filming. I was there for that match in the pits, which is the last place I wanted to be when that match was going on. But it happens.
You weren't in
And
the stands?
no, I was
This
in
you
the
said
pits.
two of your favorite robots?
I know. But it was mainly because when I was in the pits at the time, I was like, if I leave, are they going to let me back in? And I genuinely wasn't sure. And so I wanted to make sure that I was able to, not be able, getting back in. But anyways, so I didn't know everything that, had led up to it at that point, obviously. And so watching the season back, what I thought was very interesting is, as you mentioned, during the fight nights, I wouldn't say Sawblaze was unimpressive, but I mean, it just, not necessarily overly dominant. Whereas I think in the fight nights, like for the most part, Minotaur just looked lights out amazing. And I think once we got into the tournament, things kind of changed a little bit where for me, I thought Sawblaze looked just lights out amazing. And Minotaur had some trouble. They had a little bit of trouble with Fusion, where Fusion got a good hit on them, and then Fusion caught fire, and who knows how that would have gone if they hadn't. And then with Malice gave them a lot of problems, and that was, I'm sure very scary for them. So coming into the fight, without having seen all of that, I would have thought it would have definitely gone the full 3 minutes and been extremely close. But then after having seen all of that, I'm like, I think based on what I've seen so far, I'm pretty sure Sawblaze is gonna, this is going to look very much like the last time Minotaur fought Sawblaze. And it did in some ways for sure. They ended up on fire. So, you know, but that, I think the only sad thing for me was I really did want it to go 3 minutes. I didn't want their robot to just kind of die
It went
and
3 minutes. Went to 7 seconds left. That's about as close to 3 minutes as you can.
very close. But I didn't want it to get counted out at the last second. I just wanted it to keep going. But I mean, yeah, it was an amazing fight. Like, I think the big difference for me was that I don't think the last time that you had beat them in the first fight of the season and everything, that they gave as much kickback towards you. Like, they were really coming for you even after you had got a number of great shots on them. It was very back and forth all the way up until it kind of wasn't. So it was outstanding. I mean, it was just an amazing fight.
Yeah. Well, sorry to disappoint you for letting it for having it end early, but that's what I wanted. So we got competing goals here, but I think like a great fight, like the Minotaur Blacksmith one, is like it has such back and forth, and it ends decisively. I wouldn't want to have seen what the judges would have said. You know,
Mm.
I've seen that question a lot, that being asked a lot online. I think that a decision as close as that, there's going to be some unhappy people, and so when you have a really good fight, I like it to end decisively. So something like this was, I mean, as voted also by the community, the best fight of the season, which is a huge honor. Um, this match was it was fantastic, right? I wish you could have been there in the stands. It
I know. I'm kicking
I'm sad.
myself. Um,
It's we had last season as a reference to go off of, and one thing that was different between this season and last season. So last season, Minotaur's weapon, half of it went down in the middle of our season 6 fight. So somewhere between the big shocks, like we fed them forks, and that shock, yeah, allegedly, I think Daniel was telling me that one of their controllers went into like a weird state, and that's why like it was sort of anemic for the rest of that fight. So season 6, we want it on the control at the end, right? So I think that was good for us. We can't depend on that. Of course, I don't know if we could shut down their weapon again like that. So this time, where they had everything buzzing along for almost the entire time, they're on fire, but they still have plenty of weapon left. And once we had the fire started, I think that we did a really good job in the beginning with control. The forks were getting underneath them just as we were hoping to, and we were directing them, really trying to aim for good shots, um, and reminding myself not to hit the drum again. It's not good for the blade. Uh, yeah, they managed to start picking at parts which are important for our stability, which is how, like, at that first big pop that flipped us over, they hit the fork on the tip, and we didn't have like a lot of forward momentum, so it kicked us backwards instead of kicking themselves backwards. So, like, how did that happen? If you rewatch the fight, you can see little details of things that are happening. Um, the follow up, the series of shots where they hit one of our wheel guards on the side, was also hit part of the arm, which has these rollers. The robot, when the arm is backwards, it rests on these rollers, kind of on this structure, and the rollers were gone. So as a result, the robot, you know, if you accelerate a little too hard, it wants to rock a little bit. It's a small amount, but it's enough. And Minotaur's drum, like, it kisses the floor basically. I think in the test box, it actually it's actually planing the floor down. Uh, so their drum is very, very low. So any little bit amount of gap, that's what they're going to use. So doing that made it difficult for us to keep the forks down in the later part of the fight. Um, and that's how they started making their comeback, is just that the small little details or each one of those impacts is starting to come back. So yeah, they were mounting a great offensive comeback. We're sort of just trying to hold on as much as possible, so it can control them, milk the pins for all the time that they're worth. And I mean, so lucky that the time went as long as it did, and they shut down. So
yeah. I mean, like, sure, they were on fire, but as we had already seen earlier, just because a Brazilian robot is on fire does not mean that they're going to lose the match. Ella, the Black Dragon Ripperoni fight.
mhm.
So you can't rely on that. But yeah, it was an amazing fight. I thought that the precision with Sawblaze hitting them in the exact right spots was like so surgical, that it was amazing. And I mean, that just comes from experience and learning and everything from having fought them before.
Yeah, I mean, after so many years of driving Sawblaze and a similar type of robot, you have to be calculated. You have to be surgical. It's not the kind of weapon you can throw to the wind and just attack anywhere you want. Uh, and to have that patience to strike good spots, that have that vision to know where you want to hit, and actually wait the the maximum amount of time so you can actually charge up the flywheel is really important. So I think experience was a big factor for us. I think if you ask, Sawblaze was season 4, now we probably would have hit a lot sooner. We probably would have given weaker hits. You know, it's all coming together.
Yes, for sure. And so with that win versus Minotaur, put you versus Ribot. And, again, like every match, there was some element of it that I found interesting. And the thing in that for me is because they had just come off of a match where in the beginning of that match they had to be very patient with Hydra and everything like that. And David had told me he was prepared to just like stare at Hydra for as long as he needed to. And I felt like, in that match with the two robots locked together in the way that they were, I'm pretty sure both of you were prepared to continue spinning for as long as you needed to until you could like safely engage. I mean, was that the case on your end, or did you have a kind of a different plan if nothing had kind of jarred things loose?
So that was a really interesting situation. Like I don't know what part we were hooked on to Ribot, but man, it must have been a really deep spot. Um, both of us realizing that we're in a position to basically like get each other from the back. Uh, I thought we were going to have some official separation because at some point, like I was just curious to see what would happen. I actually took my hands off the controller, and he just kept going like forward, and I'm like to the ref, what do you want me to do? Like you're gonna have to tell him to stop doing that, otherwise we're never gonna get free. I literally like took my hands off the sticks. Like this is like what do you want me to do? I'm not gonna go backwards. I for sure I'm not gonna do that. If we go forwards, we keep spinning. If I take my hands off the controller, you can see a part where Ribot's going around Sawblaze. It's when I took my hands off. And it's like if I do nothing, he's still going. I mean, he's not gonna go backwards either. So what I start to do instead is to try to modulate how I'm pulsing the robot forward, so I can like dance us towards the wall or something. Which was it was working, or maybe use our pulverizer. So I started walking him over to the pulverizer. Like I end up hitting the wall instead. I'm like, okay, I don't like this either because that doesn't look good to the judges. It looks like he's controlling me. It's like I'm just trying to get the robots separated. And then so we start going back to the center, and then I don't know, we get caught on a seam or a kill saw slot or something, and it just bumped us loose. And it's like, all right, now we can start again, see what happens. Um, so I was able to catch him almost in the same spot. This time we had both forks. You could actually get underneath, pin him against the wall, and strike down a good spot. I mean, robots built as densely as they are these days. I don't know where Ribot's batteries are. So before people give me credit for that, I have no idea. I have no idea what to aim for. I just know don't hit the blade and hit anywhere else, and you will probably hit something good. So that was the plan. Just don't hit the hard thing. Uh, so we hit batteries on the weapon system, which is perfectly great. It turned it into a driving match. And without the weapon, we can basically go in without fear.
Yes, absolutely. So that led to what I think was the best match of the entire season. It barely beat out the Minotaur match, but I mean, it really did. The finals with Huge. I was in the building for that one. Thankfully, I wasn't going to not be. And I mean, it was just it's like the best finals of all the finals that I've ever seen. And I know a number of people who agree with me on that. It was so back and forth. And I mean, to see, I think both robots at the top of their game was amazing. And I mean, I've said this before, but like to see two robots that I appreciate so much in the finals and two teams and two captains that I think are just two of the best people in all of combat robotics. It was so exciting for me to be able to see that, and I think a lot of fans felt that too, and that just made it all the better. But I mean, it was really back and forth like for a while there. I mean, he hit you hard a few times, and I didn't know which way it was going to go all the way up until they handed out the decision. But I mean, what a like making the finals, but then what a way to have it happen and have it play out.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the producers realized this as well, we did so many interviews, right, on the subject. Like, tell it like, what is it like to have such two robots? I mean, they get the clip that they had for like the meta breaking thing. I think it was on their mind from the get-go. It's like, hey, these robots they're unlike anything we've ever seen. It's not a four-wheel drive vertical spinner. And so before that fight, we did we did a lot of interviews, kind of answering questions along those lines about, what does this mean for, and actually like the end clip, the season summary thing where they took my quote was from that interview. You know, this is a match that's going to prove to all the naysayers that, the things that you think like aren't going to work, they can work. But it does take a lot of it might you might have to work a little bit harder, but it can work. And when it does actually pay off, it's going to surprise a lot of people. I think that's true for, I mean, for really many things in life. No one's surprised by people that do the same thing. You know, it doesn't surprise people. So I'm really happy that everyone has received this finals as well as they did, whether it was a Sawblaze win or a huge win. It was an amazing fight with two really different robots, two incredible robots. Uh, so that the fight itself, I mean, do you want to talk about the fight or do you want to talk about the lead up to it? Because there's so much to talk about this fight.
I mean, we can talk about all of that, and really like the other aspect too that I think is important to highlight. And I mean, I've talked about this a number of times, but just like the level of NHRL representation, not only at BattleBots in general, but how many teams made it deep into the tournament that are a heavy presence at NHRL, I think is just an amazing story.
I mean, I can't understate. I'll say it again and again. Practice makes perfection, right? You get one step closer. Just you're you're learning the strategy, you're learning the robot, you're making a better robot, but you're also preparing yourself. And NHRL has gotten, well, I'm probably talk more about this in the NHRL section, but it's the level of competitiveness is really good practice for BattleBots or for any sort of competitive aspect that you'll have later on in life. It's just practicing the ability to think ahead, which is it's an incredible skill. But this fight, I can't say that was much preparation, ironically. So yeah, well, let's jump into like the lead up, right? Because people, a question that we always get is did you have that thing in your back pocket? The answer is no. I mean, they filmed a lot of kind of B-roll of the build-up. They basically followed the object as it was going through all the stages of things because they were so fascinated about what we were doing. And maybe they didn't want it to be another bike rack situation. So it's like it just gets a little too close to bike rack. They're gonna be like, nah, that's that. Stop. You should stop right there. Luckily, we were not going to do that because we want to deliver the weapon. So we had this idea. We have a preparation sheet which has all the opponents listed out and what we expect they're going to run and how we would respond to that. And the two robots that we didn't really fully fill out because they're so different. One was Ribot and one was Huge. Huge's row just says wedge question mark. And so the general idea is using something which is really stout to absorb the blade energy. And that's how I've done it for all past versions of Megatron, is to just take something, get it into their weapon, and try to sit under the robot as much as possible. And you know, huge 250 is nowhere near the 30-pound huges of old. It spins up really fast, it drives reliably, it hits really hard. So if I were to have executed that strategy with Megatron without doing anything, right, I think that huge would definitely win. So we decided we needed to do something a little bit special for this one, and that's as soon as we finished the robot fight, like the team automatically started getting to work. We made sketches, we took the wedge out, we started weighing things, we started cutting things, and we had team members go to. I, I love saying it like this. Uh, Eli goes to the local hardware store. He calls us. He's like, "Hey, I'm at the bike rack section of the hardware store. What do you guys want?" And sends us a picture of everything in that section. It's just the metals department of Home Depot. Uh, I love the way he said it. Anyways, yeah, we kludged something together. Uh, and big shout outs as well to Horizon, who sold us some Tegra sheets, and then Hijinks and Switchback, which got us the jigsaw and jigsaw blades that we used to cut them out. We took Sawblaze parts, or Sawblaze features, and we just assembled them in an interesting way to accomplish the goal we were hoping to do. Put something really stout in the way of their weapon so we can try to stall it and then have a way of capturing them so we can bring our weapon down. Much in the way that for any opponent, we never leave that our blade spun up all the way. We're definitely not going to do that for this fight either. We need all the stability, all the control we can get. So we need to have them sit somewhere controllably for a little while so we can charge that thing up. And so into the fight, the first few hits were concerning, right? They were great hits. I don't think anyone has historically they imagining huge throw someone above huge. I have a picture from both event photographers, Dan Longmire and John Bennett, and there's a picture of Sawblaze like over huge, maybe like a few feet. Sawblaze is maybe like 8 feet in the air, and huge is already close to 4 feet of wheel or something. So it's just a really cool and very funny shot. To see somebody above huge. We take those first few hits, and uh, common question that we get is, were you concerned about those? Right. Uh, this comes from experience. This robots get thrown all over the place. Scary things happen, but you keep focused and you make sure everything still works. Everything still worked, so we're just gonna keep going back in there. If something started to go awry, the functionality of the robot starts to diminish, we'd start to get a little bit more concerned. But in our mind, the robot's getting hit where we designed it to get hit. That's where it's supposed to take all the blunt. And everything still works. We can keep going. So no concern, no sweat forming. We're just ready to keep going and changing up how we engage a little bit so that we can get into huge more instead of them kicking us away.
Yeah. That gives a lot of context, and I think that helps because that there's a lot of fans that have asked some of those questions, and I think that explains some of that. So yeah, I thought that it was a great example, and I hadn't mentioned this yet, but one of the things that I noticed this season is there was so much in the interviews of people laying out strategy and then going out there and executing that strategy and doing it well. And I thought that was a really good example. Yes, was, using like a different configuration and things like that somewhat risky because you hadn't done it? Sure. But, I think that it made sense, and obviously it paid off, because when I watched it back, the produced version and everything else like that, I was like, I'm not sure if this fight goes the same way if Sawblaze didn't use this configuration, because it really did help with a lot of those hits and things like that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the the first really the zeroth thing that we did was evaluate, are we gonna do something or are we gonna do nothing? If we did nothing, uh, the team was pretty unanimous in that, I think it's gonna go bad. Doing something gives us a much better chance of surviving this fight. And so we all decided, let's do something. Something is going to be better than doing nothing. There'd be no point into just rolling in there. I mean, it is the finals. We're going to try our best. We're going to work up to like the last minute, as much time as we can get. And, you know, uh, the huge team was well prepared. They were finished well in advance. They were basically just chilling out in the battery tent and watching us, monkey around with with our setup, trying to make it wait and everything. So they had a lot of time to see what we were doing. Um, and when it all came together, we just laughed. Yeah. We didn't have time to paint it either. We're laying out the stencils and everything, but it's like we don't really have the time, unfortunately. Like we're kind of running up against the clock here. Oh, just
Yes.
just a black wedge in the air.
Hey, I mean, it did its job. So, I also thought that it was really cool that, I mean, I don't know because this was my first time to filming, and I don't remember BattleBots doing it before, but like letting the fans come down like on the arena floor basically for the giant nut presentation was really cool, and I was so thrilled to get to be there like for that moment. I mean, like what it's hard, I'm sure it's hard to remember back, but like in that moment and stuff, like actually getting it, did you have any sense of like disbelief or like, or like
Uh,
what were you feeling in that moment, do you think?
I had lots of disbelief. I mean, I was somewhere in between. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is happening. And don't make yourself a fool on TV. So somewhere in between those two things. I don't know, maybe it's because my parents were there. I was like, I can't be a fool in front of my parents. I mean, they're gonna watch it on TV anyways, but they can see me now, and the TV cut can't save me because they're literally watching everything. Um, so just trying to be cool, be a little bit composed. You know, I'll describe my excitement with words, but try to keep it cool. I mean, yeah, I love watching the uh the show version, the replay, because you look in the back, you watch it like 7 times, right? To see each one of my teammates' reactions, right? There's Sam, who's like literally behind me, and she's so giddy with excitement. I think her reaction is probably a great window into how I'm feeling, but just not showing. And of course, there's like Liam, which is it's like the I think he finally smiled when we got the giant nut. He's kept a straight face the entire time. Um,
Yes. Absolutely. Well, and of course, like I know that there was that moment earlier in the season too with Aaron getting so emotional about it. And I mean, I thought that was great. And like to even like let him have that moment and be able to speak about it and stuff, I thought was amazing, which he's just a lovely person to talk to. Um
yeah,
and he
I
is
wish
so
they
like
didn't cut it out. Like they cut out like he had. You were there for that, right? Were you there for that one?
but no, I wasn't.
No, he had a lot more of a moment, and they cut it out. Like he actually, I'm all a big fan. For all the years of Sawblaze, have been trying to find ways to get more teammates, more speaking parts, and throughout the seasons, I do that, but they just don't use it, and it frustrates me. I'm trying to give teammates chances to speak because they're just as important as the captains. So it's like, all right, we're gonna play it this way. I'm gonna talk about my team, and then you don't have a choice. So we're gonna find a way to get people involved into it. So Yeah, he was talking about the wheels. It wasn't so much about the controllers and the drive. It was the wheels specifically that he was so concerned about. You know, Literally our success is riding on those wheels, pun intended. Uh, he knew the pressure of what he was working on, and he was so happy that they worked out.
Yeah, 100%. And just for the record, I think this goes without saying because I've demonstrated that. But anybody from any team that wants to come on this show and talk about what they do is always welcome to do that. Yeah, no, that I thought that was really cool. And that kind of leads in really well too to talk about some NHRL stuff because I mean I did talk to Aaron about this, but so there's a lot of people like the level of fandom when it comes to Hamshake. I don't even know that you know how many people just thought that that was great and were so sad that it wasn't there for the May event to potentially fight Droopy. So I really want to hear your perspective on that project because this goes back even further. This goes back to a tale of three hams and a tale of two hams. So I really want
Yeah,
to hear your version of that.
I mean the hams originated with Aaron, right? So collaborative hams are sort of they're more recent development, just because we're always trying to find ways to up the ante for ridiculousness. I mean, I still love no matter what I make. What makes it fun for me is when it works. So it can be the silliest thing. I just want it to work, even if it works in a silly way. That's the whole point, is for it to be ridiculous. And on my end, I know that he's had a long history with styrofoam, and then that's great and everything, but I want the styrofoam thing to work. Um, yeah, what's my perspective on it? I mean, so collaborative hams, we as bot builders, we've been in this sport for a long time, and that has some, definitely some pluses and definitely some minuses. I'd say on average we tend to do pretty well because we have that experience, and people, as as you were mentioning earlier, folks that really want to beat me, I can't. I feel like I can't just field anything anymore, because even if I like enter in just some random object, people are gonna be like, "Oh, we beat Aaron and Jamison," and they're gonna celebrate it. And like, I just want to have fun, right? If if I have to try really hard every single time I fight robots, you know, it's not very relaxing anymore. I have my serious robots. Those, like, you'll know when I'm really trying to exercise everything that I've learned so far. But we want to have a chance to have fun, make something ridiculous. We built robots in college, like basically the week before events. That was kind of like the thing we did. We'd hang out in the shop, and we'd stay late, and we'd make something really fun. And sometimes it's, you got to get those solutions together, and you help each other. It's like that sort of, that memory of building is something that we want to keep reliving. And so the ham robots are kind of like that window into the past. We want to build something that echoes that fun ridiculousness, and also kind of like tells the world, hey, we want to have fun with this robot. Like, even like, I don't know, champions want to have fun. We want to tell people, like, we want, don't take this one too seriously. It's really for fun. Um, and if it wins, it's luck. I think January we probably had a lot of luck. I would probably say luck finally ran out, of course, and ran out in a very good spot. Um, because the hams are not supposed to be reoccurring. Every year we have a new ham. So if the ham went to December, it really has no business being there. It should not be there. And I don't want to get to the situation of discussing about the donating of uh, championship spots. I know that was a point of contention last year. So I think it went out a great spot to a great competitor, and we couldn't be happier with its performance, the ham shake. Uh, You heard from Aaron as well. For the collaborative hams, we try to make it extra ridiculous in that we split up the functions in a way you don't expect. So there's robots that have a driver for the drivetrain and a driver for the weapon. What if we just split that in half and we split the drivetrain between two drivers and the weapon between two drivers? And that's what you get the hams, the tail of two hams, tail of three hams, ham shake. They require the collaboration on the drive at the event in the fight itself, and we make it even more ridiculous by trying to limit the amount of communication about what each person's contribution is going to look like. So we try to break in these like little segments that just can be bolted together at some agreed upon spot. We have to agree upon that. If it doesn't fit together, it's not going to work. But that's why you get like Hamshake, the lizard, and the giraffe. Vastly different. They're different everything. There's almost nothing the same between the two, except that the material is TPU for the chassis. Yeah, there's literally nothing the same. And
Yes, it was awesome though.
it was so awesome. There's like, they did like the spin move. I think the first time we did it was in the positively hysterical fight, and I turned to Aaron, or he turns to me. I forgot who said it, but we're like, dude, that was so cool when we lost control. How do we do that again?
Yes, which I have to add that I know Tom Farkas said that being destroyed by your robot was one of the highlights of his career. So
I love Tom's robots. It was such a fun fight. Oh man,
yeah,
I'm glad he brought a new version back. Like I want positively hysterical to be at all and as many Norwalks in the future as possible.
I 100% agree. He has many ideas for different versions of it. There will be a different version of it at this next event that I am very much looking forward to seeing. So, yeah, and it's funny. It's worth noting at the May event. I may have also said in an interview by the NHRL people that I wished that you were there because I wanted my robot to get destroyed by you. So people have weird goals. Some people want to fight you, and some people want to beat you, and some people want to get destroyed by you. It's very weird.
Hey, you know what?
um,
I don't judge. Everyone's got their own goals. I think, yeah. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
exactly. Now, as we know, Megatron and Psycho have both already qualified for finals. With that being said, I mean, for those robots, are you planning on running them again before finals, or are they just going to kind of get worked on until that point?
That's a great question. There's some new speed controllers that I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about. There's a lot of buzz in the community about AM32. Derek from Gigabyte he's really been selling me on that. He really wants me to try them out. Uh, so I have a few AM32 controllers now, and I don't know which robot they're going to go into first. But something I really don't want to happen again is random failures in December, and that one really can't be explained. That controller has been the same controllers I've been using since Megatron's first competition in 2017. Like the only way that we're able to explain it is just it just ran out of life, and that's hard to predict. This is, fighting robots. There's no damage to the controller. It fought a fight earlier in the day for it to just randomly, and we tested it before the test box before going into that match versus Huge. There should have been no reason why it would just smoke out, and like that cost me the first loss and put me into a really difficult position in the losers bracket. Um, Plus, I really want to try out I can't call it that, can I? I was about to call it the Huge Wreck 2.0, because this was
Oh.
like the funny thing. Maybe it was a good thing that we didn't fight, because the December finals was after the BattleBots finals. So anyone who would have seen that NHRL would have been confused about the precedence, and it would have it was a more polished version of it. So it maintained this the mystery, except for the folks that were in attendance until the finale, like a few weeks ago. So maybe it was better that it ended that way.
It may have been. Yeah, no, I thought that was interesting. Jonathan had referenced that as well. So yeah, no, it could have been interesting. But yeah, so that, I mean, hey, maybe you'll try out something with that. But obviously Silent Spring is going to be fighting in the June event, and you haven't yet qualified that one for finals. I mean, I'm guessing that would be the goal, although apparently there's a huge line of people who want to fight you now.
Um, I it's something I really want to do with Silent Spring. There's I had a few ideas for how to make it more interesting and better. Uh, just simply due to the finale coming up, or the end of the season, the airing was coming up, and so we were kind of ramping up everything we're doing on the Sawblaze end. I didn't have the time to do the CAD and development that I wanted to get those changes done. So it's more or less going to be what it was in the December finals, with maybe some of like the really low hanging fruit issues addressed. So it doesn't feel particularly exciting for me to run it as is. I really want to I want to make the Silent Spring has never been 5 pounds. Like it's always been about 4.5. And I want to field it at its maximum potential. I haven't been able to do that yet, and I haven't been able to design what maximum potential is. So I think now that things are starting to settle out in the BattleBot side of things, I'll actually be able to devote the time to make those changes, but it won't happen for this event. Uh, but I'm still excited to at least run the small upgrades because I think they're still very important. And then, I don't know, make some big explosions. The Silent Spring is known for. There's a lot of
Yes.
folks from all over the world that I really want to see again. So this is going to be a super cool event. I'm sad that you won't be there, right, with Naga.
I will not be there at this event, but my current plan, I am building my own robot, and I hope to be there in September.
Hmm. What are you going to name this one? Are you going to continue the last Airbender themes?
I am not. I am going with, because as you know, I have a 7-year-old who will probably build robots someday. She'll probably beat everyone because I mean she like, that's her personality. But what she's very into Disney. So whenever I've like talked about the idea of her making a robot, it's always had a Disney theme. And so for this one, I had a couple of ideas, and like a couple of them I was like, I really want to save that for her. So this robot is going to be called Poison Apple. And it is going to be a very Minotaur-esque kind of bot, definitely that Brazilian style influence, with a Drisk kind of drum on the front of it. So should be interesting. But I decided after my success in May that I know what was working for me then. So I want to make sure that the robot I build leans on those things that were working for me in May. So
Hmm. That's fantastic. I
yes.
love everything I'm hearing. Like from the new robot side, and also just everything that you're saying about improving or what you're going to commit to the new robot is that's exactly what you need to do. That's awesome.
Yes.
Perfect.
So we will see. I expect September to be highly competitive because it is the last chance for people to qualify. So, we've got a few events, and I've got some time, so we'll see how that goes. But it's exciting to get to do something like that, and really I'm very immersive in my process. For anybody who hasn't noticed, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, but I'm excited to see this June event. I mean, there's so many just amazing robots in all three of the weight classes, and I think it's just going to be a fantastic event, especially with kind of the new things that they're trying to throw in there with the freestyles and things like that. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Anytime you have any chance you have an opportunity to get time in the box, and the people that just they don't want to fight robots, it's great. It's a lot of fun and it's great testing time. So it's awesome that they have a system for continuing to allow these matches to happen.
Right, absolutely. And I'm also curious because I've asked this of a couple of people that, like have been around a while, and you're starting to see like, I'm sure when you started there were, obviously robots that you were influenced by, but now like you've been doing this for a while, you've had Sawblaze for a while, and now there's so many people that are being influenced by you. I mean, Brian Boxall mentioned, with Waddles that there's definitely some Silent Spring influence in what he's doing with Waddles, and there's others that have mentioned, hey, I'd love to make a hammer saw bot like Sawblaze. Like how is it for you that you've gotten to a point where there's people that want to make robots influenced by what you've done?
I think it's really cool. I mean, the opportunity to inspire other people has always been a really amazing goal. And there's lots of ways to do that. From the design side, that's definitely awesome. I hope to speak to them also about the process of it as well. Because I mean, near and dear, and I'll talk about this forever. It's just like the process of going from zero to something is something that is always very meaningful to me, and not just we're building robots, and so it's so easy to get kind of to focus on the technical details, but I think the whole experience for me has been so much personal development as well. So any chance I can really talk to folks about, you know, just how to get there, it's it's super cool. So I think that maybe the BattleBots and NHRL and just this opportunities to show my robots and stuff is kind of given me this kind of soapbox. People listen to me now, but I can like tell them about these experiences. I don't know if they want to make robots, especially hammer saws. Hammer saws they're complicated enough that you don't see that many of them. So oftentimes people will tell me like, yeah, I want to build a hammer saw, and like they'll ask me questions about how you get it done, and as much as it would be easy to just tell them the 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 function and purpose of how everything works, kind of like the shufflers actually, I don't do that. And I don't do that because I want people to think about it, you know, think about how it's supposed to operate. How does it work? How do you get this advantage from a design standpoint? And what that resulted in is, especially in the shuffler is a great example, is people coming up with their own solution. And there's so many variations on how to do that thing. It kind of birthed a bunch of different ideas. And I think that solve it yourself methodology is is actually resulting in a lot more positives than me just saying, this is how you do it. You know,
Yeah.
it's a design challenge. We should think about it. So I think that's how we come up with more awesome robot ideas in the future. Getting people structured ways to think about innovation.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, you can see it in the short time that like it's crazy to me that I think I've barely been following NHRL content for a year. I don't even think quite that long. And seeing some of these robots or some of these builders come from one place and seeing where they are now with their designs and capabilities is just amazing. I mean, just to kind of throw it out there, because I always like to use Tom as an example, but I mean, like Tom Farkas, there's a reason why he won an award last year for NHRL, for building, because he, comes in with first drink of the day and then makes something like positively hysterical that is so like unique. And I mean, I can't even conceive of how you design something like that when you have no engineering background and experience. And he did it, and he's constantly improving upon it and like adding things to it and making it new and interesting. And I think that's such like an amazing example of what somebody that even doesn't have experience can do in the sport.
I was waiting for the hammer saw positively hysterical. Maybe it'd be a different animal. Maybe it'd be like the dog robot or some, I don't know, some really nasty creature. Just instead of the paw, it just pats you with a spinning blade or something.
Hey, Tom, that's an idea for Thor paws. I've told him he needs to make Thor paws and a hammer saw weapon that like let's do that.
Yeah, if oh man, if Thor had a hammer saw, I mean, Stormbreaker was cool and everything, but it's an axe.
Yeah. So hey, there's an idea. But yeah, I mean, I think that constant evolution is so cool, and realizing that you don't have to have like this massive degree or something like that to be able to do that. You can take something and just consistently build upon it and improve it, and that's really all that you need to do.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really important there as well. So people will often look at like my own history and say, "Oh, you went to a bunch of really good schools and everything." I mean, that's true. But I think my major takeaways is not something unique that the universities offered me. It's it's kind of like enough exposure to people, which we get in this community for sure, is to see enough like random things to get an idea of what you could do. It's like I want to borrow a concept from this and like smash them together, and it's just experience. So when you're like looking at the world, really anything. I don't know. Like I think last year when I was thinking about Sawblaze, I was looking at snowplows. I was just like, oh, there's snowplows in the parking lot. I just like on my way to lunch. It was cold as hell, and I just stared at it and said like, what's with the shape? You look at anything. You just have to have this open mind to take in information, this experiences from anything, and you could use those tidbits to make something creative, to make in a new way that maybe we haven't seen in this sport before. So just be open to that idea. It's not where you've been. It's like what you do with your surroundings, I think, is what makes success. So just try to see the opportunity all around you.
Yes, 100%. I could not agree more. Now, I want to make sure that I allow time, as I have been doing, if you would like to shout out any of Sawblaze's sponsors, which, make all the things possible.
Yes. Actually want to shout out to my teammates. They're just as important as I am in the victory of Sawblaze this season. It was just so amazing that the team was so united on what we needed to do. I almost did not have to turn. I didn't have to turn like as many screws for sure. They let me handle the interviews and stuff. They let me get relaxed and prepared. And the robot was in such awesome shape. I mean, where do we start? Aaron fan, of course. Um, and then let's go to Sam Glassner and Liam Chapin. Sam was she's so on point with the checklists and maintaining the to-do lists. So making sure like everything that we need to do, everything we need to fix, documenting all the history results that we have done for Sawblaze this year. But she's really taken it on her role to make sure all that stuff gets done. Um, Eli Davis, Alina Granville, also like new members to the team. Then they did like so much in the background as well. There's so much grinding, the prep work. Alina is an amazing artist. A lot of the graphic design, all the new stuff, like the shirt you bought. are, thanks to her. Um, let's see, Ray, our PhD that we make him grind. He's a really smart guy. He's our Tao guy this year, right? And he grinds. Just have him grinding forks. It's such a thankless job, but it's so important for Sawblaze. So I'm gonna make sure that he gets some thanks. Everyone was grinding too, by the way. Sam was grinding, Liam was grinding, Eli was grinding, Alina was grinding, Ray is grinding. Shakti came later, but in the previous seasons we had him grinding too. Uh, Shakti Shaligram is he was only able to attend for the last few days, but it was great to have the team there. And of course, Jake Chesson from afar, he's got a lot of life going on right now, so he wasn't able to attend filming. He's usually the guy that's with the cap that runs the flamethrower next to me and pushes the cart. This time it was Liam. And then we also have special thanks to John Mayo, who continued to help us with the flamethrower um, at the event as well. Even though he was officially a Team Valkyrie member, he still very much wants to make sure that the flamethrower, kind of his baby, is still doing the blaze that we need for Sawblaze. And our sponsors, we had amazing sponsors this year. So happy to have them. Some have been with us since the very beginning. Uh, I mean, let's start. I'm going to start with that. Harmonic Drive has been with us since the very beginning. SolidWorks, of course, we use all the time. Klockner Metals does a lot of our metal work and weldments. Desktop Metal has also been with us since the very beginning. Metal parts and now photopolymers and things like that. It's all over the place in the robot. Uh, Xometry, new for us this season. They helped us make components as well. Max amps, batteries. We use the same battery for every single fight that you've seen so far. These batteries are awesome, absolute troopers, and Max Amps, they're always one call away if I have any issues. Apptronic, a new sponsor for us, and Send Cut Send as well, which services so much in our fighting robot community. Thank you so much, all of our sponsors, for making our championship possible.
100%. That is awesome. Well, I mean, now I can't be like, I mean, I can't, oh, technically I can. I can say, go win another giant nut next year. Become the first repeat champion since Bite Force. That would be a pretty cool thing. I mean, do you still, now that you've got that giant nut, do you still have that? I mean, I don't think I need to even ask the question, but I'm
Do
going
I
to
still have the drive
anyways.
for it?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that like hunger to like do it again.
So it's a fantastic question, because I think one of my thoughts after everything was said and done was, I mean, we Sawblaze is, you know, serious, like serious and joking alike. We are always trying to improve, and people have marked our continual improvement from, I mean, not even entering the tournament to 16 to 8 to 8 to 4 to champion. And so it's a fair question to say, what is the next step? I feel like if we do anything less than the champion, then I feel like we've gone down now. So it's really tough. We need to set new realistic goals. As much as we'd love to win the championship again, it's not easy. And low key, I like seeing new champions too, even if it is myself again. Uh, so it's tough. Like, what is our goal? Like, maybe go undefeated in the fight nights, something like that. We need to set new goals, and make them reasonable, so that we can't be disappointed if they don't happen. I think expecting to win the giant nut again would I mean would I think it would be cocky, honestly. It's hard. Every champion has had moments. Every champion that we've had has not been easy. There's been moments where they've almost lost it, and they just barely squeak it out. And you can even say that from the Bite Force era. Those fights were going back and forth. I mean, like the Hypershock fight. I don't remember what season it was, where they really cut into the corner of Bite Force. Uh, that was a close one for Paul as well. So yeah, we need to set new goals. That's kind of what's on my mind right now. But we can't let up. I think that the expectations are high. They've always been high for any machine that I've been a part of, so this is no new feeling. But I think that everyone's watching us now, so be interesting to see what happens.
Yes, it definitely will. Well, I will certainly be excited. As you know, I want to see Sawblaze continue to do well. And we'll see whenever the next season happens. You know, and of course, as we know, there's still the Golden Bolt, which we can't talk about, but you know, that's still a thing that's gonna happen at some point. So everybody can be excited for that.
That's right. I mean, the Golden Bolt. I mean, I'll just say it's awesome. I think all the robots that compete in it, there's some fantastic fights as well. Like, don't you won't want to miss it when it comes live.
Yes, as someone who was there for quite a few of those fights, I can attest that you will want to watch it whenever it does happen. But yeah, so you know, in the meantime, for anybody that's watching this, you can keep watching this show because even though I've said a million times, I'm going to, you know, only do like less shows or something. I don't apparently I don't have that off switch. And so I'm gonna keep putting out you know, probably 2 to 3 episodes a week. So there will be plenty of combat robotic content for everybody to watch until that happens. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that good stuff. You know, and we'll talk to everybody next time on the show.